Hi, I'm Tracy. I'm the University and Careers Counsellor for Dubai British School, Jumeirah Park. I'm going to just do today an overview of the UK university system, just some hints and tips of things that you might want to think about if your child is planning going to the UK for university. So. Okay, so you might think, I mean, this might be quite obvious to you, but actually, it's not just all about the student. There's loads of people involved in the whole application process for university. So people like, parents, families and friends, teachers, form tutors, your careers advisor, your head of sixth form, and sometimes outside agencies. All these people can come together and give you advice, let you know what steps that they took, just give you advice on the best way maybe to apply, or universities where they've been, what their experience was like. It's all a really good thing to get as much information as you possibly can, and then then the student can sort of sift through this information, start making decisions themselves on maybe where they want to go and what exactly it is that they want to do. So you need to build up a bit of a plan, and this is not something that just happens overnight. So as a family, obviously this is a massive family decision, whether this is your first child that's going to university, whether it's your fourth child going to university, you still need to, get a plan in place and sort of talk about what's going to happen and, in the run up to them leaving. So realistically, you want to work together as a family, talk to each other, listen to each other's opinions on, what would be the best way forward. The thing about sharing the work, the responsibility, decision making, obviously, your child is going to be the one who's going to university, and well, maybe they'll have a great idea of what they want to do, but maybe they won't. So it's really good to sort of talk to people, make use of us at school. We've all been through this, and been to university, so it's good for them to talk to people who have already been through the process. I imagine a lot of you guys will have been through the process as well, so things have sort of maybe changed a little bit, and it's just good to reassure the student that they can do this. Yes, it's a bit of work, and yes, they have to do a little bit of legwork to decide what it is they actually want to do, but everybody can help with that. So a lot of this, it is quite a stressful time. So a part of your job is going to be to managing the anxiety that they might be feeling, and obviously there might be some conflict as well. The students might want to go somewhere that as a parent you maybe don't agree with, but at the end of the day you have to talk these things through and find the reasonings behind why they want to go where they want to go, and what university they want to go to, that sort of thing. A good thing is to allow everybody to contribute in some way, so everybody will have an opinion on lots of different things about the whole run up to university. So it's good to maybe, everybody sort of sit down and sort of talk about, well, this is what I think, this is what I think, just so you've got lots of ideas on the table. So, and think about everything that's going to make up your university plan. This stuff needs to be done, not like 6 weeks before, the applications to be in, but, you really need to be considering lots of different things in a good time frame before you're actually starting to, make firm plans and getting the applications in. So you need to sort of research, lots of research is needed. You need to get lots of information together. As a team at school, we work with our students, and particularly from the minute that they hit year 12, we are really giving them so much information and guiding them through the university process, no matter where they want to go. So you can rest assured that we're doing everything that we can from our side, and students are letting us know sort of where they want to go, and we can sort of direct them, and we'll help them with their actual university application. So things about, prioritizing and being strategic about where they're going to apply to. So you can imagine there are hundreds of universities in the UK, and you need to get the right fit. So think about, sort of maybe think about things that are important to you, to the students, when they are choosing where they, the courses they want to do and where they want to go. So things like program specifics. Now, I speak to the students about this a lot. So there are loads of courses on offer, hundreds and hundreds of courses on offer in the UK. And what they have to do, if they have a vague idea of what they want to do, is get down to the nitty-gritty and look at the course content. So yes, they can look at the courses offered. They will be different, sort of up and down the country. They'll be offering loads of different courses, but things will kind of be different. The specifics of the program will be different. You could have two courses that say business, but the actual what they do and the syllabus is offered in there could be very, very different. So they really have to look at the course content, look at this really carefully. Look at the number of years for the university courses. So, for example, courses in Scotland tend to be 4 years long, and courses in England tend to be 3 years long. That first year in Scotland is a sort of, it's not a foundation year, but it's, it's a more sort of a general year when they can do a few different subjects, and then they will specialise later on in the course. And this is why it sort of takes an extra year. Also, you'll have different numbers of years if the course is a sandwich course or if they offer a year abroad. And this is something that the student will look into. So do they want to have a year in industry, or do they just want to get the degree done and dusted and then go to work afterwards? So these are all things to think about. Think about research opportunities. Obviously, in the UK, you have the Russell Group, who are leading research universities. And if this is something that you're interested in, then, these would be universities to look at. Employability, you can look at places like Unistats, and they will give you statistics on how many students have been employed after the course, what the percentage of them are that's gone into, further education, or they've gone into employment and stuff like that. Location will be a big thing for a lot of our students, especially if they've lived in Dubai all of their lives. Then moving to the UK could be, that's quite a massive change. So you have to think about a lot of things when you're looking at where in the UK that they're going to be going. Okay, so things like social emotional support. So if you have family in the UK and you would like, your child feels like they would like to have that kind of support, close to them, then that could be a reasoning for choosing a particular university, because it's close to family members. Things like whether they want to go to a large city versus a smaller town. That's definitely a personal preference. Some will fit better in, a smaller town where it's not quite so wild nightlife and that sort of thing. Or, and some people might actually thrive going to the big city. I mean, if they've been in Dubai for a long time, they'll be used to living in quite a big city and, and having everything, at hand to their fingertips. That might not be the same if they move to a slightly smaller town. Things to think about. I mean, I laugh when I speak to our students about this. I talk about the climate. Obviously, I've kind of lived in all parts of the UK, and Scotland is much colder than the south of England. So maybe that's something to think about. And that whole thing about, it gets dark at 4 o'clock in Scotland, it's maybe not just quite so bad in the south of England. If students are, used to having 24 hours, sort of sunshine and warm weather, then, like moving somewhere that's cold and dark and rainy all the time, that could be something that influences their decision. They need to think about things that they want to do, or what things there are to do, if there's, like sports facilities available, if there's, things to do like cinemas and theatres and lots of clubs and things like that, close to them, then that might be a reason for them to choose a particular university as well. Things like safety, obviously, people do think about that, and that could be something to think about. Work permits in the UK, you can get a work permit for 2 years after your degree is finished, so that might be something that's very attractive. Okay. Other things about the culture of the campus, if this is important to the student, then they really need to think about that. So you can get these stats, they're really readily to hand. Things like, percentage of international students that go to that university, what clubs and societies they've got, what the mission statement of the university and what values they have, maybe the ethnicity of the students that go to the university. And again, safety is another thing about, that whole culture of the campus. Finances as well, overall costs, do you want to go to the UK because you'll get, home status? Will you be going as an international student? Scholarships are available in the UK, but they're definitely not the same kind of scholarships that you would get in the US. So that's maybe something to think about. The other thing is, employment opportunities. This is going to be something, will the student be able to work while they're at university? If they're only in university, maybe 10 hours a week, 12 hours a week, will they be wanting to work part-time, to subsidize their income? So all these things are things to think about. The university itself, they really want to think hard about what it is that they want. So, things like, class sizes, you could go to university where there's, 650 people in your lecture hall, COVID permitting, obviously, or you can have ones that have much, much smaller amounts of students. Whether it's a comprehensive university that offers a massive choice of courses, or whether it's a more specialised one. It's this sort of thing. An old or a contemporary university. Do you want to go to Russell Group? Do you want to go to an older university? Or do you want to go to a new university? These are all things that the students are really going to have to think about. What is it that they actually want to get out of their university experience? And by kind of thinking about these things, that's a really good idea, just to, maybe narrow things down a bit. Okay, so objectives really for this session. Why go to university at all, and what sort of things to consider? Things to consider when making applications, and then what to do now. All right, so the usual thing about university. So one of the things that people always think about is for your long-term financial gain. It's a proven fact that graduates tend to earn more than non-graduates in their lifetime span. This graph is from 2020, so a couple of years, but you can see there how much more graduates, those with degrees and those with postgraduate degrees as well, earn in comparison to people who don't have degrees. It's, over the long term, it can definitely add up quite a lot of money. Why should you consider university? So not just financial reasons, for academic reasons. This thing about it's your only opportunity to study for the sake of studying. That could be something. So if there's a subject that they particularly love, then this is a great opportunity to do this, but to do it without any other obligations. People can go to university at any time in their lives, but if you go later in life, you might have other obligations. You might be married, you might have children, you might be doing it around working full time. So for our students, this is a great opportunity, or for all students at this age, this is a great opportunity just to go to university for the sake of going to university and getting a degree without all the other added complications that come later on in life. Obviously, the transferable skills that it will give them will help them in their quest for employment afterwards, and the opportunities and the contacts that you can make through going to university can also sort of head you in, get you down like a certain path and open things up to you that you maybe didn't think about before. And if you're unsure about your career path, going to university is a nice kind of 3 years to study something you're really interested in. Maybe take your time a little bit thinking about what it is that you want to do. And then you could do, afterwards, you can do graduate programs, you can do postgrad, you can go into work, you can do all of these things, but you would have a degree behind you, which a lot of employers look for. So, it's a great thing to do for that. Another reason, competition. So it's saying there tens of thousands of entry-level jobs now requiring degree level education. More people than ever before are going to university, and more people than ever before are in jobs that do require degrees, and because it shows employers, a lot of skills, and the fact that you can sort of study to that level is also really, really good. If you look at that that's quite an old statistic, but looking at the amount of applicants for the places, that's quite a lot. So lots more people are looking to go to university and looking to become educated to that level or higher. The other thing, we say to our students as well is, even if you don't know if you want to go to university, you should apply. So, we start in year 12, we do we start the UCAS application. And even if students say, well, I'm not really sure if I want to go to the UK, we make them do it anyway, because It doesn't matter if you decide, if you do the application and then actually just before you go you decide not to go. That's absolutely fine. Nobody's, it's nobody's going to kind of come after you and be like, why are you not going? Why are you not going? You need to you can make your decision much closer to the time. But if you do it in the right time frame, then you've got everything there ready to go if you do decide that that's what you want to go. If you do your application and you get some offers and things like that through and then decide, oh my gosh, I don't want to go, then what you can always do is you can decide to go the following year. So that's fine. You could decide to maybe take a gap year or something like that instead. And, you can speak to universities and say, can I defer my place? And some universities will say yes and some won't, but that's a chance you take. And this other thing about having the option to go is better than not any option at all. That's very true as well. So at least that's what we're saying, at least if everything is in place, then, if you do change your mind, at the very last minute, that's absolutely fine. You can still do that application. Yes, and what should you consider before applying? Location. This is this thing about, if as a parent you're going to stay in Dubai and your children are going to go to university in the UK, that's quite far away. So that's a choice that you have to make as a family, as a student, as a parent. So that's something that's, going back to that whole thing about things that you need to think about. This is one of them. Some people or some students will definitely at this age, at only 18, decide that they want some family support. So if you have family, in the UK and stuff like that, then that's good for for your child to be close to them. Some will want that, some will actually, not really be bothered, and they want to become really independent. And that is that thing about going to university. It's a massive, wherever you are in the world, when your child goes to university, then, they do become independent. They cook for themselves, they clean for themselves, they wash their own clothes, they do all that kind of stuff. And they become, financially, I think, a little bit more savvy because, they have to budget and they have to, this is what I've got for this month or this week or whatever. And the thing about, having a part-time job. So all these things, you really need to think about. And you would think about that as a group. And the student will think about that themselves, because at the end of the day, it's, it will be down to them to decide, how far away from home do they want to be? And, can they cope with being so far away? Okay, so things that you should also consider before there's loads of these here, considering before applying is, if you've got an idea of something that you want to do, you really need to be checking, am I doing the right A-levels to do this? So this is particularly important for a year 11 student. You would have to think about, okay, so if I wanted to do medicine, then I know that I have to do maths and I have to do chemistry at A-level. Any other subjects, science subjects are good. You have to think about as well, if I want to do maths, I need to maths and potentially further maths as well. If you want to do, there's lots of different courses, there's like a whole list of them here, but you really have to think about, am I doing the right subjects in order to get onto the course? Now, this is something that we will show them, and we will look at it, and we can talk about that, and they can have sessions on this all the way, when they're considering their options for A-levels. And if they change their minds, that's okay, because if they decide they take these subjects and then they don't want to do that course, actually the subjects could be absolutely fine for them moving on to a different course anyway. It's mainly for courses like, sort of for medicine, for engineering, for vocational courses, they might want specific subjects. So that's just something to maybe think about when you're thinking about university and thinking about doing A-level subjects as well. Oh, sorry, I think I went past one there. Okay, another thing to consider before you're applying is quality and reputation. And I know from talking to students this last year that a lot of them are look at universities, the league tables and stuff, and they're like, oh, it's not very far up the league table, or it's not number 1 and number 2, but that's okay. You can take these university league tables with a truckload of salt and just, go for a university, maybe not because it's number 1, but because actually it suits your personality, it's got the course that you want, and all of these things that we talked about before. This is the sort of stuff that you have to be thinking about. University league tables, some people are bothered about it, but there's been a lot of stuff that's coming out recently sort of saying it's not so much the it's not so much where they are in the rankings for the university, but it's about the student coming out with a really good degree. So, you know, a 2-1 or a first class degree, and that's what gets them further on, rather than actually I went to this university or that university. I know a lot of our students like, you know, the Oxbridge or, you know, the really high ranking Russell Group universities and stuff like that. And that's absolutely fine. But you really have to think about the student's personality and how they study, and, you know, how motivated they are to get, you know, to get through their work and stuff. So look at things like Unifrog, Unistat. So we have a platform called Unifrog, and we use it a lot in school, and it's a careers platform, and it has so much information about different places, and, you know, all sorts of stats that the students would maybe be interested in about the university, just to help them maybe narrow things down a bit. And yeah, that thing about, you know, rankings are only ever as good as the previous cohort of students to graduate. So, you know, sort of keep that sort of thing in mind as well. There's nothing wrong with kind of wanting to go to the best universities, absolutely, and I would encourage it as much as possible. But you also have to be realistic about where you're going, and, you know, is this a kind of place that you're going to fit in? The UCAS tariff, so AS levels, it says they're only worth 40% of a full level, but we don't tend to offer AS levels at all. Our A levels are linear, so they're across the 2 years. Universities may offer on the back of 3 A levels, or they may offer on the back of tariff points. And you can see from this chart here, so the tariff points are the numbers, and then some, you know, you might have a course and it'll say, we want you to get X number of tariff points, 120 tariff points, 96 tariff points, whatever. And you can sort of see how that can add up. Now, BTECs as well, because we obviously offer BTECs in sixth form. BTECs also have tariff points, and that's the way you can kind of, you know, you can look at courses and stuff. If your child, the student, does an EPQ, then obviously they'll get points for that as well. But there's also other things that they would get points for too, things like dance, music, that sort of stuff, if they want to put that on their UCAS form. Okay, so the university profile. So this is another thing you have to, or they have to decide what kind of university they want to go to. A lot of the students that I've spoken to don't really seem to be fussed really where they go, but, you know, it's good for you to know the differences. So if you've got a city university, that university is going to be in the middle of a city centre, you know, it's going to be in, you know, in a bustling city, and what you have to think about is the accommodation. In a city campus, the accommodation will be all over the city. So the student could be, you know, 4 miles away from the university, and will have to, like, you know, work out public transport and how they're going to get there and that sort of thing. A collegiate university is one like Oxford and Cambridge. They have everything on site. So they have different colleges, and you would stay in that college for the whole duration of your degree, and, you know, you would eat there, you would sleep there, you would socialize there as well, and you would have some lessons in the actual college that you choose. So that's something to think about. There's quite a few collegiate universities in the UK. And the other one is a campus university, which is a little bit of a mix of both. So a campus university is one that the university and all the accommodation is on one site. So you would basically, you know, it's quite a nice option for some, because they think, you know, they can roll out of bed and then they're, you know, they're pretty much there and they're at university. So, and everything's there. So sports facilities, places to get food, places to socialize, all that kind of stuff is in one area. So they're not worried about, you know, public transport and living like miles away from where the university is. So everything's kind of there. The thing about, like, you know, universal requirements, specialist interest, that will obviously depend on the subject that the student wants to do. Services offered by the Students' Union. Student unions are great, and they offer loads of different services, and that might be something that a student would consider when they're sort of thinking about their applications. You know, do they have a lot of support for students that maybe have any sort of mental health issues or something like that? Then they might have some great support like that on campus, you know, or, you know, at the Students' Union that they could offer. You know, things like the career service and stuff like that. Some Students' Unions will be better than others at providing this kind of stuff. And the other thing to consider maybe for your students is, the gender and age split. You'll be able to get all of this information. So if that's something that is a factor that you would consider when choosing your university, then, those sort of statistics are available for you. Okay, the Teaching Excellence Framework. So this is something that rates universities gold, silver, or bronze. So you can sort of see from that, from that table there, how that sort of thing is split. So some of them, you have some really, really good universities there that have bronze, LSE, Goldsmiths, all these places, and as opposed to the Oxford and Cambridge and stuff that has, the gold. Years in industry, so I sort of touched on this earlier. If you do that year in industry or the year abroad, that is giving you a year's experience. So, for example, you might do, they're called sandwich courses. So you would do 2 years at university, you would do then 1 year in industry, and then you would come back and you would finish your degree in the 4th year after that. Now, there's lots of benefits for doing this. So the experience of actually working in the industry that you're studying for, absolutely fantastic. And then if you really impress the company that you're with, and then you potentially could be offered a job for when you finish your actual degree. So that's really, really good. So I mean, that statistic there, 62% more employable on average. I mean, that's amazing. That sort of gives them a bit of an edge over other graduates who have just done their degree first. Okay, so degree apprenticeships are something slightly different. So they do, for those of you who don't know, so it's an apprenticeship for an occupation where you actually do that occupation and you work full time. So, but the thing is, while you're working full time, you would be getting your degree as well. So you would have a salary, they would pay all your fees. So you would come out with your qualification, and you wouldn't have any debt or anything like that. There'd be no student loans or anything like that. And the qualification will often just be the same, and you would have a guaranteed job because you'd have gone with the same company through the process. Yeah, there are on UCAS and Unifrog, you can look and see what's available to you, and you need to apply for these through UCAS. So the other thing you need to think about, you have 5 choices. Generally speaking, there are exceptions to this. So, but generally speaking, you've got 5 choices. If you want to apply to Oxford or Cambridge, you can only apply to 1. If you apply to medicine, you can only apply to 4. And 1 other has to be a different subjects. You can apply for different subjects in your 5. You can apply for different courses in your 5 choices, but they do need to realise that they can only do 1 personal statement for all of the different subjects. You can apply for multiple courses at the same university. That's absolutely fine, and you can also apply this year for the year after. So if you're a current year 12 student and you would be applying for a 2023 entry, you can actually apply on UCAS to start your course in 2024. It's a good thing to be strategic about your choices. What we generally say to our students is you want to have a real aspirational university in there, where if you do really well in your A-levels and BTECs and stuff, that you could potentially get there if you do really well. You want to have some choices that are kind of solid choices. So ones that, whatever your predicted grades are, this is the kind of grades that they're asking for entry. And then you want to have at least 1 safe choice, and that safe choice will be if case you don't get the results that you were hoping you were going to get. But you have to be clever about this, because even if having a safe choice, you have got to, you'll need to do it for a university that you would be happy to go to. There's no point putting a choice down as a safe choice if you think, well, actually, I never want to go to that university, because it's a waste of a choice. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So the early applicant group. So if your child, the student, wants to go to either Oxford or Cambridge, if they want to be a doctor, if they want to be a vet or a dentist, then there are early applicant groups. So their applications have to be in for the 15th of October. That's the deadline. All the students that are doing these kind of things, or have mentioned to me so far that they're going to be doing these things, are aware that that's the early entry, because obviously that happens quite quickly when our year 12s come back after the summer. So, that's really something to think about. They need to have their personal statements done. They need to do, like, if there's any entrance exams they have to do first, and they'll have to sort of get that sort of stuff underway. The other deadline is not till January, so it's quite far forward for that. And predicted grades are based largely on year 12. Now, students are definitely made aware of this. They know that the exams that they do throughout year 12 will be going towards their predicted grades. And this is so teachers can give us a best guess, if you like, what they would be, what their grades would be at the end of year 13. So this is kind of something we're looking for when they're sort of looking at it. They're looking for progression, and they're looking, for students, to do, as well as possible in these exams. The other thing is entrance exams. So some courses will, you will need to do entrance exams. So things like medicine, you would need to do like a BMAT or a UCAT to get into medicine. If you go to Oxbridge, they often do a lot of entrance exams for all of their courses, not just their medical ones. And also, if you're going to be doing things like law, then some universities will want you to do the LNAT. So we will obviously, as a school, we will help out with signposting the student to what it is they'll have to do, but they're well aware. So the ones that are doing these kind of subjects or are looking to do this at university are often well aware of the stuff that they have to do, and so that will mean doing some kind of work over the summer. And the other thing is that some courses, not all, will the students will need to be interviewed, or they will need to provide a portfolio. So things like for medicine, you will definitely be interviewed for medicine if they're interested in you. If you're going to Oxford and Cambridge, then yes, they will definitely want interviews. If you're going to do things like performing arts, you're going to have to do performances and interviews. And for things like, for art, for graphic design, maybe architecture, that sort of stuff, then you'll be looking at, students will need to provide a portfolio of their work as well to sort of showcase, what they can do. A personal statement is something that we speak a lot about in school. That is, we give them lots of hints and tips. We have universities coming in and talking to them about it, and that makes up quite a big part of the application process. So the first thing that universities are going to look at are going to be the predicted grades, and that's often where they will send conditional offers for, and if the personal statement is there to showcase the university how much that student is motivated to do that subject. And also the other thing is a school reference. So we will provide a reference for the student. It will be subject references from their teachers, and it will also be like an overall reference. Oh, sorry, let me just go back one. So these are some of the dates that you need to think about. So just what we were talking about there. So the undergraduate apply is opened, and that is something that our Year 12 students have done already. So they're already on UCAS, and that's fine. From September, they can send off their applications. Now, obviously they have to wait for references to be done. But if we know as a group that they are wanting to send their applications off early, then we would have the references done for them in time. Obviously, for the students that are doing, medicine, veterinary, that kind of stuff, Oxford and Cambridge, we will have everything ready, references, etc., to go for their deadline on the 15th of October. So the UCAS deadline is, I think it's the 25th of January next year. We as a school will want actually the applications and things like that in earlier. And this is just to give the teachers time to do any other references that have not gone through early applications. So if we get everything in from the student, we're hoping by the end of November, and then it means that we can get all the references and stuff put on the applications and get them sent away before the Christmas break. That's fine. We have had students that did this year that had applications in the beginning of October. We had students that had applications in, the day of the deadline. So we do encourage students, I think, for their peace of mind, to try and get things done before the Christmas break, because their workload is huge in year 13, and they've got lots of other stuff to do as well. So we kind of think if we can get this done and then that just gives them a little bit of breathing space. Some of them will get offers and things through straight away, but if it's anything like this year, then we can be waiting right up until the very last minute before offers are coming through. Extra is a thing in UCAS that if a student doesn't get any offers at all, then they can do another in February. Then they can add another choice to their list and do an application that way. So last day of applications before clearing is the end of June. Clearing is something else. If students don't manage to make the grades and stuff like that, then they would go through clearing and look for other courses that weren't full yet. Okay, so what should you consider? So register with UCAS. So we have done that already for our year 12. So UCAS is the main what's the word for it? It's the main thing that we do all our applications through for the UK. Mostly, there are some exceptions. So you do all this online. It's the 5 choices. Like I've said, students can apply to both Oxford and Cambridge. They only do one. The great thing about applying in the UK, as it is super cheap. So it's £22.50 if you're only going to apply to one course, or if you use all 5 choices or anything over one is £27. So that's about 150 dirhams. So that's what it is for all of your, all of those applications. The equal consideration date is the 25th of January. Like I said, this date means that if a student has their application in by this date, then the universities have got to consider their application. If they put their application in after this date, then the university is under no obligation at all to look at the application. Some students sort of worry a little bit about, oh, well, what if somebody else sees that I'm applying to these other universities? It doesn't matter at all. They can't see it. They don't know what your other choices are. So that is absolutely nothing to worry about whatsoever. So these are the sections. This is kind of what UCAS looks like a little bit. These are the sections that have to be completed. Most of them are really, really simple to do, and it takes minutes to go through them. So things, like your personal details, the contact and residency, all that sort of stuff. Work experience, if a student doesn't have any work experience, then that is not a problem at all. Education, they will put in everything that they've got. So GCSEs, the A-levels and BTECs and stuff like that they're doing. Whether or not English is their first language will be a thing for international students, because they may have to do an additional English test, the IELTS, on top of that for their visa application if they're doing that. Any supporting information, if a student has any learning needs or anything like that, that can go on there as well. It doesn't affect their application at all, so that's fine. So any extra help that they get, that needs to go onto this form again. So you get up to 5 choices, and that's obviously, that'll be completely up to the student. And finance and funding. So they're going to be asking on this form, how are you going to fund your place at university? So for a lot of our students, they will go for home status, with the UK being their ordinary residence. We'll be doing lots of stuff about that as well. So if you've not seen any of the stuff by UK Study Options, then we will be giving you the option to see them and to have a meeting with them. We're going to try and do a presentation by them in the autumn term. Okay, so that's just something to think about. So with your UCAS form, so when you're filling stuff out, the personal statement is the big thing. So obviously, apart from their predicted grades, this is the thing that's going to make them stand out. And like it says, it's the only section that students will have full control over. This is the students' chance to show universities how keen they are to do the subject and what they've done about making sure that they're like a really good candidate for that university. It's one personal statement for all 5 choices. So no matter, if they apply for different things, then they're going to have to try and make their personal statement applicable to, to whatever courses they're going for. 4,000 characters or 47 lines. It's about 650 words, 700 words, something like that, and a minimum of 1,000 characters. Now, they want to be as close to the maximum as possible without waffling. So it needs to be, it needs to be concise and it needs to be articulate, but it also needs to be not waffle, so there's no point putting stuff in for the sake of it. There's no spelling or grammar checks, so we advise our students to, obviously, I look over all of the personal statements. Tutors will look over personal statements, our head of sixth form. But if a student's happy, with you guys as parents doing it as well, then it's a really good idea for them to do it, because it's not just going to be one version that they do. They're going to do multiple versions of their personal statements, and you end up reading it so many times that sometimes things can be missed. So it's really good to have a fresh set of eyes read the personal statement, just to make sure all the spelling is right. Remember, if you're applying to the UK, it's English British, not English US, because there's a lot of different sort of spelling differences in the spelling for these two. So it's really good for you just to kind of sort of glance over it and that sort of stuff. You can't format it at all. It's all just going to go in. It's all just going to look the same. It's just going to be a big block of text that they're going to see. So you can't make it look fancy or anything like that. It's going to be, sort of straightforward. And one thing to note is UCAS uses software that detects plagiarism. So students cannot copy. Now, obviously, there's going to be similarities with each course. There's only so many things that people can say about business or medicine and that sort of stuff. There'll be a lot of similarities, but they do have a detection service that when it gets to a certain level, that will kick in. So even though there's lots of sites that has personal statements, other people's personal statements, they post them and stuff like that, it's okay for a student to read them. It's definitely not okay for them to copy anything out of them, okay, because that will, they'll see that. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so this is the way we do it. So students registered for the UCAS Hub account, which we've done already for our Year 12s just now. They complete their application, they do all the sections in it, and then it gets sent. It gets sent to me as the careers advisor. I overview all of these. The teachers and advisors review it, so that's fine. So it won't just be me. It does come to me, but it won't just be me that looks it over. So it'll be like the head of year, the head of sixth form. People will have input and look into it, and we'll add like the references and the predicted grades and stuff. The way that we have it set up in school is, once all that's done, the references there, predicted grades are there, the student's done everything, then the student will pay for it. So they will pay for it with a credit card, and then it gets sent to me, and then I send it off to UCAS. So that's just how we've set it up as a school. Okay, and then so it goes to UCAS, and the student will get an email from UCAS to say, thanks very much, we've received your applications. And then what happens is they send it off then to the university and colleges that the student has applied to. Now, they can get back. Sometimes they get back really quickly. We've had, this year we've had students that have heard the day after their applications that they've had a conditional offer or whatever. But there's also ones that have waited months and months for their offers to come through. And that is absolutely fine. It's frustrating for the student, it's frustrating for us, but universities will have until May the following year. So for you guys, it'll be like May 2023 before they actually have to come back with a decision. Okay, so this is what happens when if they get all of their decisions through. So they may get 5 offers, they might get 1, they might get 3. So whatever they do, they have to make their decisions from the offers that they have. So they can only take 2 offers. So the first one that they'll do is their firm acceptance. This is their first choice. So what happens is, if everything goes to plan and they have been strategic about the way that they have done their application, then if everything goes to plan and they get their grades and stuff when it comes to results day, then the university that they've chosen that they've accepted as their firm choice is the university that they're going to go to. The other one is their insurance acceptance. So this is their backup. So this is the university they'd maybe quite like to go to, but not as much as the first one. It has to be a university that they are prepared to go to in case everything goes wrong, because otherwise what happens is they would decline that and then they would go into clearing and maybe try and do something else. So say they get 5 offers through, they have to make their choice of the top 2 that they want to do, and then they have to decline all the remaining offers, and then that's it. So if they aren't holding an offer, like we said, in February, they can go, if they haven't got anything in February, or they've been declined from everything by February, then they can use the extra. Or if they haven't got an offer, or they don't want to take up any of their offers, they can withdraw from everything and they can go into clearing after results day, and that would be in the August. Cool. Okay, so what to do now is obviously research. The whole university thing is such a subjective thing. Students have to really think about what they want to study, maybe kind of, think about the subject they want to do, where they want to go, what kind of university. What I try and sort of say is, and I've given them to our students, is have like an Excel spreadsheet or something, and just have a list of all the places that you want to go, and just sort of compare them all yourself for the things that are important to you. And this is the big thing. So what's important to me might not be important to another person. So things if you want a university that has great sporting facilities, well, another student might not want that. They might want a fantastic library, or they maybe want to be in the middle of a city centre that has like shops and cafes and theatres and cinemas and stuff like that. That might be important to them. Think about like work experience, particularly for things like, if you're going to be doing medicine, physiotherapy, dentistry, veterinary medicine, law, any of these things. If you can get any kind of work experience, a student can get any kind of work experience, that is a fabulous thing, because, it just shows that they're keen and they are looking to do as much as they can to find out as much as they can about the job that they're interested in. So, that's something. We are in the midst of setting up a work experience program, and some of our students have done some really good work experience. And this is where parents can really help out as well if they have any contacts. And this is the time between sort of year 11, year 12 is the time that students want to be doing some work experience and, just dipping their toes into that world, and being reflective on what they've learned, with that experience. Extracurricular activities are important, but maybe not as important as the supercurricular ones. So supercurricular is all the activities that the student will do to enhance their knowledge about the subject they're interested in. And extracurricular activities are obviously things where you're going to be building up skills. If you're like leader of the football team, or you've got a black belt in karate, all that kind of stuff. Those are amazing skills to have, and that's really good to have on your application. But it's the thing that the university are probably least interested in. They want to know about the supercurricular stuff, and they want to know about what sort of stuff the student has done to enhance their knowledge about the subject. And obviously the big thing is focus on studies. For students, the most important thing that the university are looking at are your predicted grades, and you can only get these predicted grades if you work hard and you get the grades that they're looking for. Okay, so the university that they will be applying for will hopefully be within their reach, and you have to ensure that you're getting those grades to do that. Oh, sorry, that's okay. So I can't get back to the other slide. There we go. So that's about it really. Let me just scooch back down to this one. So Unifrog, we have been using a lot in school. It's a fantastic platform, and it's got so many resources. The students have all got logins for it, and they all use it. It tells you so much stuff about not just university, but like what other options there are out there. you know, for like apprenticeships and gap years and stuff like that, and for working. It gives them support on their personal statements. It allows them to put things like, you know, their competencies and stuff like that, which will be really useful for doing their personal statements. So it's got all that sort of stuff in it, and we utilise it a lot, and it's got great shortlisting things for the universities in the UK, so it will help them sort of narrow down their searches a little bit. And these are all just really useful websites that you can use. You know, UCAS is obviously the university one. Unifrog is the one that we use. Unistats has all that stuff, do you know, that they might be interested in. So you know, how many students go into employment, you know, that, I mean, you know, student satisfaction, all that kind of stuff. So these are all really useful websites. Open days as well, this is a really useful thing for you to do with your students, and you can start this in sort of year 11, in the summers and in holidays. Now, a lot of universities will do online open days, which are great. It's really good just to get a bit of a feel for the place, but even better if you, or you know, the students can actually visit universities, because a lot of this thing about going to these places is a bit gut feel. You know, they'll, you know, a university might have on paper all the stuff that they, you know, that they are looking for, but actually a student might go there and think, oh, actually, do you know, that's not for me. Whereas, you know, they might go to another university that's maybe not so high up their list and actually go there and really think it's got a good vibe about it. And, you know, that's maybe somewhere they could see themselves. So this is definitely something to think about, okay, when you're doing that. So, yep, so that's about it. So I know I've talked for absolutely ages. I hope it's been useful to you, and we will share this with everybody. And yeah, so if you've got any feedback, yeah, definitely get in touch. And if you've got any questions, then yes, do that too. Okay, thank you so much for listening.